Welcome to the Jack Mountain Bushcraft Podcast, episode 129.
Welcome to the Jack Mountain Bushcraft Podcast with your host, Jack Mountain Bushcraft School founder and Master Main Guide, Tim Smith.
I'm your host, Tim Smith. I'm a registered Master Main Guide and have been a full-time outdoor instructor and guide since founding the Jack Mountain Bushcraft School in 1999. We help people become more skilled, more knowledgeable, more experienced, and more confident in the natural world through our bushcraft and guide training semester programs and multi-week canoe and snowshoe expeditions. You can check out the show notes to all of our podcasts at blog.jackmtn.com. If you're interested in learning more about our college-accredited and GI Bill-approved programs, visit the Jack Mountain Bushcraft School on the web at jackmtn.com. And check out our online network and digital learning academy at bushcraftschool.com. Hello and welcome back to the Jack Mountain Bushcraft Podcast. It is Tuesday, August 6th. There's a bunch of us in the guide shack. We're joined by celebrity guest Lance Bass. And it's week 8. We're tired. We've done a lot of stuff. And you're going to hear about some of that stuff today. But it's been a couple of weeks since we've come at you with one of these podcasts because we've been gone. We've been gone on the river. We did about 86 miles, I think, on the Allagash. Pushing hard. You're going to hear all about that trip. We're currently in the midst of all of our testing for the Journeyman certification for the Wilderness Bushcraft semester. So we're busy with all of our practical exams. We've got a whole bunch of journeymen ready to be crowned. We've got some people who've been here for 5 months. And that's longer than most Hollywood marriages. So you can take that for what it is. And we don't have a ton left on this course. We're busy. We're very busy. So I am joined today in the Guide Shack with Oz, who you have been listening to our podcast, should be very familiar with.
Hey.
We've got James, and we won't use last names because a lot of these people are in the witness relocation program. Why else would they come spend this much time in northern Maine? We've got Jared, of no relation to the Jared from Subway, although this Jared has ridden a Subway once, he said. And we've got Cody in the back. How's everybody doing today?
Feeling good.
Feeling good? Good. So testing, we're in the middle of it right now. Well, let's talk about our trip first. We can talk about testing in a bit. We've done some canoeing this course. On the long course, we don't do as much, obviously, as we do on the 4-week canoe expedition because that's all we do then is canoeing and living in the woods. But on the long course, we do a fair bit of canoe instruction, and we always like to try to lock that in near the end of the course with a big, long, hard trip. So leading into it, the canoeing portion of this course, you guys all carved your own canoe paddles using only hand tools. And we went out to a remote stand of spruce, cut some poles, skinned them, brought them back, put shoes on them. So this trip that we took recently, everybody was using gear that they made themselves, let alone ropes you made yourself and stuff like that. But we put in on Indian Stream on the Allagash on Eagle Lake and had a couple of, well, we had one short day and that was day one. And every other day was a long day, like 10 plus miles.
Yes.
And
I think 11 miles was our shortest day.
11 miles was our, and it was, headwinds and it was hot. Like it was
Lake paddling.
Lake paddling 11 miles and it was like 90 degrees and tons of humidity. And it's one of those instances like a summer trip where you wake up and you're sweating before you put your shirt on in the morning. You're sweating already and you're like, there's no end in sight. I'm going to sweat all day. The only break I'm getting is to jump in the water. And some of the water was like so warm it didn't feel
bath water.
Didn't feel cool. But had a great trip. It was busy for the summertime on the Allagash, as busy as I remember seeing it. We had those poor people who showed up. We were in camp at Five Finger Brook South, and these people paddled up at 7, and they're like, we left at 7 this morning, and there hasn't been an open campsite, and just felt kind of bad for them.
Yeah.
And then we saw them the next day, and they had to push on past us.
They did. I think they had to finish the trip.
I think they did the whole Allagash in 2 days. And they weren't young, people. They had some age on them. At least some of them did. So it just sounded hard. But anyway, just curious if you guys have any takeaways from the trip.
For me, honestly, the biggest takeaways were, one, if the class is working hard, and this class in particular works harder than, obviously I don't have a lot of experience, but any other class I've been to, I mean, we're talking about nearly 100% commitment to achieving the Journeyman out of this class, which is phenomenal.
Unheard of. It's never happened before.
So I think that, maybe there's some past students thinking about their bushcraft semester right now, and they're going, well, we didn't get to do the Allagash. I think that is the defining trait of this class, is that everybody showed up to work. Everybody's here for the full commitment. And I think that makes it easier to take the class out on such a long trip, is that you have faith in their abilities and the seriousness that they're taking the course. So that's what I love about this class.
100% on that. When people are kind of wishy-washy with their commitment to working hard, like you think, okay, if I got 50% of people who are willing to work hard, like I don't want to put 100% of those people in a situation where they have to work hard because maybe there's a mutiny.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was a good takeaway. What about anybody else? Any good takeaways from the trip?
Yeah, I guess one of the takeaways that I finally started feeling a lot older at this point in my life. I started
more mature?
More mature, but definitely my joints and my shoulder in particular was flaring up on me. But it was, lots of sports injuries growing up, so dealing with those right now. But it was an awesome trip. And like you said, everyone's motivated, and that could be motivating in itself, is just kind of seeing the people around you working hard and busting out bow drill fires at night. It's kind of hard to just sit down and relax when that's going on. You're kind of looking around for stuff to do.
It's hard to be the only motivated person in a group, and we've had that. You guys all met
Jesse.
You guys all met Jesse, and he was the lone journeyman from his semester, and the other people weren't as motivated. So you can see if it's a lot easier to work hard all day, be exhausted, ready to just pass out, be like, I got to get this bow drill fire before I go to bed. That's a lot easier to do when other people are doing the same thing instead of everybody else is already snoring and, you're the lone person putting in that labor. Yeah, agreed.
I'd say paddling. So I was on the canoe course, and I thought my paddling was doing good, and then we went across 80 miles of lake, and I realized it wasn't that great, and by the end of the course I was trucking along just fine.
Yeah, it's like it's almost like the more you do something, the more reps you get, the better you get at it.
Well, I can remember you saying something when I first showed up, and I think I was having a hard time with poling in particular, and you said, well, the answer is just 80 miles downriver, right? So I think that is the same thing applies to any of these skills, but paddling as well. Is it's easy to jump on a river that's pushing you and think that your paddle strokes are good because your arms aren't sore at the end of the day. But you got on a lake, you got a headwind, nothing is helping you except for your own techniques. All of a sudden you start to notice that elbow, and you start to notice the shoulder, and you start to notice the back when you're doing these things wrong. And so it forces you to apply the proper techniques to get that done. So I always enjoy the hard pushes, because that's where I tend to learn the most, like about forgetting food and stuff.
Or bad food.
Yeah, or bad food.
But fatigue is a great teacher. Fatigue teaches you efficiency. Without fatigue, you probably would never learn those lessons. Yeah. If we were all starting off like fresh, like, I had a cup of coffee in the morning, my muscles are fresh, and I got to paddle like a quarter of a mile, like you'll never get to the level you would if you're just covering miles every day to where your body's screaming and it hurts. So anything you have to take away from it?
Yeah, I would say that my paddling was also one of those things. I did not do the canoe semester, so our first day on the lake with the big headwind was my first day or second time solo paddling a canoe, and it was rough goings, but I got it. And by the end of the trip, I feel like not even paddling, but just general efficiency at everything I was doing, even setting up and striking camp, we were moving at least 50% faster just because everyone found their technique and kind of got into their own rhythm. And it just goes for everything. Tim keeps talking about reps, but the only way to get it is to get after it. You have to do it in order to get it. And that's what I took away from this, and kind of just all across the board.
Yeah, we had long days. I mean, most days we were up and pushing by 7:30, right? Which is a little bit earlier than what we're used to pushing. But I think that making the miles throughout the day, staying away from the other groups, being able to arrive at our campsites early, I think pushing hard is what kept us kind of ahead of everybody else, right? And kind of kept the headaches behind us. So I think that was tough. I think it definitely, when we had our one rest day, I think that was a much needed rest day. But, we all got up the next day. I think we didn't even have a time that we wanted to depart, but we were ready to go by 7:15, right? On the water, gone. So,
yeah, and then did 12 miles the last day?
Yeah.
Which is nearly 20 miles, which is almost 40 miles, which is almost halfway to 100 miles on that last day.
That's right. So it just shows the ruggedness of this group, right? I mean, even though everyone's tired, we're dealing with not injuries, but some definite aches. Everybody gets up, very minimal, if any, complaints. I don't think I heard any actual complaining the entire trip, right? Maybe someone like me saying, "Oh man, my neck hurts, or my shoulder hurts, or this hurts." But
I had a few complaints during the course, like my coffee is too robust, and my dinner is too delicious, and my beverages are too refreshing.
That's right.
So I had those.
I let a squirrel bully me at the East Brook, or the Big Brook East campsite. Every morning at 4:30, it would start throwing bombs at my tarp every 4 seconds.
I don't think the squirrels like you.
No.
Yeah, pound for pound, the most foul-tempered animal in the forest.
I love it.
Yeah. One interesting takeaway we had when we got back here, we were all, usually I'm the one driving the van, and we always stop for something to eat, a little greasy spoon, and then hit up an ice cream place on the way back, and then get ready for the snoring, because everybody in the back is usually out cold. So at the diner we go to, or sometimes I'll bring them. I bring a couple little toothpicks to hold my eyelids open so I don't kill us all. But then after we got back here, we all, said, "Oh, we'll see you tomorrow," or take the day off. And I think we all slept for like 18 hours.
Yes.
And it's been about 4 days. It took me 3 solid days to bounce back physically. Like, I was run down, pretty tired.
Yeah.
And that's, and I was the whole trip getting good sleeps, eating good, but it was so hot and so humid, and, such a toll on the body, plus the hours of labor every day. Just good, but I do think it's good to get out there and push yourself every now and again, make sure that you have enough in the tank to pull a trip like that off. But sometimes it's 3 or 4 days of rest when you get home. I woke up early, had a coffee, and I know it's only 8 in the morning, but I think it's time for my first nap of the day.
I'm still there, Tim. I'm still there. And it's Tuesday.
We had a couple of mishaps on the trip with regards to food and food planning. And I know, Oz, that it hit you pretty hard. Do you want to share what happened?
Yeah, I went to a local place to get my meat, which for the most part it worked out. But for lunches, I was planning on summer sausages, cheese, quick stuff that I can pack in a lot of calories, but not have to break out my cook set. And day one, I break out my lunch, and the first summer sausage is bad, which I did not even know could happen, that summer sausage could go bad.
Because apparently there is some actual sausage in amongst all of the BHT and other chemicals and preservatives. Like, there is sausage involved.
Somewhere.
Yes.
Somewhere. And it went bad.
We're not sure where.
It ended up panning out that all 5 of my summer sausages were bad. And then I forgot 3 pounds of cheese that were also supposed to go with that. And then the hard-boiled eggs that I made for breakfast were messing with my stomach. So I was literally getting maybe 600 to 700 calories a day. And then that came to a head immediately after our carry around Allagash Falls. We got to the campsite. It took me about an hour and a half to set up my tent and tarp. And then I went into my tent, and I did not come out for 16 hours. So that was interesting. And I'm still feeling the repercussions of that. I added up about 16,000 calories that I went without in a 7-day period.
So I think the lesson that we take away from something like that is, when you're out laboring and doing physically hard things, you've got to be putting good fuel into the gas tank. And when that doesn't happen, maybe you're going to suffer a bit. I think, and especially the longer the trip, the longer you're out there doing that. Like, I'm not making the claim that if you skimp on a meal or you miss a day or even 2 days of food, like, you're going to pay significantly. But if it's a long-term calorie deficit, that's hard. That's hard on the body.
Also, I think where you're starting, right? I don't have a lot of body fat to give away. So I almost immediately begin to start burning muscle, which is going to have a huge effect on me. So, yeah, huge lesson for me. I don't know how to correct, besides forgetting my cheese, which was minimal. I could have been fine without it. I don't know how to correct the summer sausage issue, besides go to a reputable place to buy your meat, which...
I mean, in their defense, though, it was like a national brand of summer sausage.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is I went in there yesterday. When I asked him, he knew exactly. He said, "Oh, those," and then said the brand and said, "Yeah, we have a problem with that supplier all the time." And I just thought, awesome. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Thank you for putting those rotten sausages on the counter.
And I didn't know that you were running such a calorie deficit, because I went the other direction. I remember one night I made like a 6-pound pork butt, smoked it on the fire, and it was delicious. And I ate like 3 pounds of it, and I just threw the rest of it away in the woods because I was like, oh, nobody's going to want this. And then one night, I think I made like 5 racks of ribs, and I only ate 2 of them, and then I just chuck it in the river. I'm joking, but
I was swimming downriver after those ribs. That's not telling anybody.
Fighting the chub for it.
Yeah. But I think a good time was had by all. One of the nice things I have found over the years about pushing hard when everybody's working hard physically is you build teamwork, you build a team way faster than any other way I've ever heard about, read about, or experienced. When you're coming together to unite against a common foe or for a common cause, like, you're instantly thick as thieves. You approach every challenge shoulder to shoulder, and what you can't do alone, you can definitely do together. And I totally noticed that with this group. And to be honest, those are the reasons why I keep doing this year after year, because that sort of thing is it's just flat out awesome.
Yeah,
I got no other way to put it than that.
Absolutely.
So everybody here is still hard charging on the Journeyman certification. Like, we've been doing a lot of testing so far this week. You guys have any reflections on the testing process? Anything worth noting? And no is an acceptable answer if you don't.
I would say just get your reps in early, and by the time you get to testing week, you probably should have already had some tests done. If you have the opportunity to do them on trips, like, you're making your own firewood while you're at camp to cook on. So by week 5, week 6, maybe start looking at doing your axe testing. And then as you get closer to the end, like, the knots that you're using every day, that's probably something you can test out on early as well. And then it's a little bit less overwhelming when you get to the final week, because I'm someone who gets pretty overwhelmed pretty easily. So I think just having a plan and getting ahead, if you can, is definitely going to be in your benefit.
Yeah, getting ahead is definitely a big thing. I was able to get through like the fire workbook pretty early. I've still made some fires since, and have gone back and had some fun with stuff like the fire plow. But it's nice to not have to have that looming over me right now. So I can just focus on, just a couple things and focus on the details of those things so I don't miss the small stuff, because details matter.
Yeah. Details do matter. And I'm fond of saying that it's, often it's the little things that matter in life the most, which is why every morning I wake up and look at stuff through a microscope for 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to come back after a line like that. So I'll switch over to you now. XI, you guys, 3.5 months. We started, we're 50% of the other expedition instructor cert people have kind of thrown in the towel. So why haven't my attempts to get you to throw in the towel worked?
Why, Jared? Why?
I find it flattering, all the jokes. Especially when you hear it for the 15th time over 5 months.
It's all about the reps.
You've heard that microscope joke before?
I definitely say the course is definitely a marathon, not a sprint. So as you're going through, checking stuff off as you go instead of pushing it back. So instead of waiting till the last week to do all the academics or all the testing, as you're learning how to do like the netting needle and stuff, doing a few reps and then a few days after testing it and getting it out of the way, instead of pushing it all to the end and then being overwhelmed.
Yeah, good plan. Good plan.
One thing that I keep finding with people who are able to drive through tough things is that they have a certain amount of pride, right? And it takes a lot of pride a very little bit of pride to quit something, right? Especially when it's not it's not super hard, right? And so seeing Jared, seeing Sam come through, and I had a feeling, honestly, the first time I met the two of you, that you guys were going to be all right. There was one more I thought was going to be all right, and then he changed my mind within a week. But, you kind of see that already in them, that they have a pride. Everything they do, they take their time at. They take criticism well. They listen to the lessons. And I think that is what makes the successful 6-monther, is that you've already set in your mind that you're going to be here, and to not accomplish that would be too massive of a blow to your pride, right? And so those things matter, right? People who quit, I don't know how you do it, but I'm very proud of Jared and Sam for showing the fortitude that they have throughout this course, and super proud of them. So I just want to say that.
Likewise.
Thank you.
It's definitely a marathon, not a sprint. So what do we have left to do? We got about 9 days to go. We got 2 or 3 days of testing left, and then we've got to go out on solos, disappear into the North Woods. We've been back from the Allagash for about 3 days, and I just got an email in, and it said that the bugs are lonely and hungry, and they want us to go back out and feed them again a little bit. They're starving. So
you got to get their food storage for winter.
Apparently, some of the mosquitoes in the North Main woods ordered a bunch of summer sausages from a local retailer. Turned out they weren't any good, so they're hungry. They need a reprieve. So we're going to we finish up this week, and then we head out on solos for 3 nights, and then we come back and kind of wrap up any loose ends. And I say this every long course, but on one hand, it feels like a 9-week course is equivalent to like 100 years. It's like you've never known any other life. And then on the other hand, though, you blink and it's over. And I think it's like middle of the week 8, like, we're experiencing the second part of that. I'm sure these guys feel like they've been here for 100 years at this point, but
I think I was born in Maine, actually.
Yeah, right. It's the only life I've ever known. I don't know any other way to be. But on the other hand, like, you realize that we're starting to round this last turn, and we look down towards the far end of the tunnel, and there is a light there, and it's slowly getting brighter. So feels like a long time, and it is a long time. But I think more than just the calendar number of days it's the journey that, you undertake from, think about when we started. I think back day one on the pond when people are struggling to stand up in a boat and like, this person, why are they trying to make me stand in a canoe? This person's crazy. And then flash forward a couple of weeks later and everybody's like running class 2 rapids, not sweating it. And, and then continue on from there. And, the first time, which end of the knife do I hold? And then they're carving netting needles and making bow drill fires and hand drills and fire plows. And
or you see them, you watch them approach a rip, right? And you see them choosing their lanes, right? Choosing their routes through. You start seeing all these little things that when they first got there, they didn't even know what to look for, right? So seeing that, especially on this last trip, everybody, right? Even if someone was already picking a line for them in front of them, you still saw people looking and verifying that was a line, and some people trying to take other lines and seeing if that works, right? So those are all good things, and by week 8, that's exactly where the student should be, right? Is kind of pushing their own limits, pushing their own knowledge base, and trying these new things instead of just, well, Tim's got it, or Oz has it, or whatever, but I think that's another thing that I really loved about this class is that at any time, anybody was willing to step up and, whether we were talking about, hey, you want to navigate to the next site, right? There was nobody who was ever hesitant to put their skills on the line. And I think that is the true test of someone's knowledge, right? Is can you just do it right now? It's not a test, just do it.
A lot of us had the maps on our boats as we went down the river following along. So as we'd go through, I'd point out the campsites and just know where we are along the river.
Yep. Or the brooks coming in.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember the last day of the trip, you and I were way in the back watching him pick lines because we were both so tired we couldn't
I couldn't keep up.
Couldn't catch up anymore.
I thought that was on purpose. You were letting us pick the lines.
No, you guys, honestly, this has been a phenomenal class. And it's been an absolute... I don't feel like I've worked for 8 weeks, right? I just don't. And if I have had to work, it's been on my own shit. I don't feel like I've ever had to take anyone under a wing or give someone special attention or worry that something's not being done or worry that a task isn't being accomplished. And I think that's a phenomenal feeling as an instructor.
Yeah, agreed. So I guess we got another week and a half or so to go on this course. Maybe we'll check in because we have solos. And solos are the part of the course where the students head off to experience life in the North Woods with the gear that they've made and the knowledge they've accumulated. And the instructors stay in a base camp for safety purposes in case there's a medical thing, and slowly go insane over 3 days. So maybe we'll record another one of these.
Lots of liquor.
when we're slowly losing our minds sitting in a base camp. But yeah, thank you for spending this time with us, and we will hit you back again with another one soon. Have a good day. You have been listening to the Jack Mountain Bushcraft Podcast. For more information on our professional wilderness guide training programs that are college accredited and GI Bill approved, visit us on the web at jackmtn.com.